People always said I was quiet. Teachers, classmates, even my mom. "Oh, that's just Riley," they'd say. "She keeps to herself." And they weren't wrong, I did. But what they didn't know was that behind my closed bedroom door, I was more than just the girl who sat alone at lunch or read novels while others Snapchatted in class. I was living a double life. One that nobody saw coming. One that would blow everything up. My name is Riley Connor. I'm 17, a senior in high school, and until a few months ago, my life was routine. Predictable. I'd wake up, brush my hair into a messy bun, avoid the hallway where the popular kids gathered, go to class, and come home. Every day, the same. My mom worked long shifts at the hospital, often didn't get back until 9 or 10 p.m. So the house was quiet, like me. But my mind was loud. Loud with questions. Loud with stories. Loud with truths no one was willing to admit. Ever since I was 13, I'd been obsessed with true crime. Podcasts, YouTube videos, documentaries, I consumed them like candy. While other girls followed makeup tutorials, I learned about criminal profiling and unsolved mysteries. It started as curiosity, but it quickly turned into something more. A compulsion. An escape. And then one day, I started writing. I created an anonymous blog on the dark corners of the internet. I called it Shadows of Suburbia. No one knew it was me. I never showed my face. I wrote under the alias Ghostly. Every post broke down unsolved small-town crimes, usually the kind that didn't get national coverage. The forgotten ones. The ones that haunted people in silence. But then something happened. Something real. Something close. A girl from my school went missing. Her name was Cassidy Bell. She was a junior, pretty, bubbly, the kind of girl everyone noticed. Except that night, no one knew where she was. She'd gone to a party on the edge of town and never came home. The town freaked out. Posters went up. Candlelight vigils happened. Our principal cried during announcements. People said, "Stuff like this doesn't happen here." But I knew better. Stuff like this always happens somewhere. I watched it unfold from the outside until I didn't. Because Cassidy's case struck something deep in me. Something that wouldn't leave me alone. So I started writing about her. On Shadows of Suburbia. I listed timelines. I mapped out her route. I interviewed people under fake names on Reddit. I asked questions others weren't asking, and it started getting traction. The post about Cassidy went viral, within my little underground corner of the internet. Thousands of people shared theories in the comments. And then, something chilling happened. Someone messaged me. An anonymous tip. Short. Simple. Check your own backyard. At first, I thought it was a troll. Some jerk playing games. But something about the tone, it felt real. Urgent. So I did what I always do. I dug. I pulled up satellite images of my neighborhood. I compared them to my own memory. I checked timelines, traffic cams, neighborhood watch apps. Nothing clicked at first. But then I remembered something strange. The night Cassidy went missing, there had been loud noises from our basement. I thought maybe it was the boiler or an old pipe, and I didn't want to bother my mom. She'd just come home from a double shift, and I'd learned not to disturb her when she was tired. But now, it felt wrong. Off. The basement was always locked. Always. And I'd never questioned it before. It was Mom's storage space, she said. Old stuff from when we moved here. We lived in that house since I was 5. And I'd never once seen the inside of that basement. I asked her about it that weekend. Casually. "Hey Mom, where's the key to the basement?" I wanted to look for my old art supplies. She stiffened. "Oh honey, that place is a mess. Full of spiders and mold. I really need to clean it out someday. You don't want to go down there." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. And something in my chest shifted. That night, I searched her room for the key. I know that sounds horrible, but something told me I needed to know what was down there. And after 20 minutes of rummaging through drawers and shoe boxes, I found it. A small silver key with a yellow tag that read B. I waited until she left for her next shift. Then, heart pounding in my throat, I opened the door to the basement. And I swear, I could feel the air change. It wasn't just dusty. It wasn't just moldy. It was wrong. Like the walls were holding their breath. Like something terrible had happened down there, and the air still remembered. There were boxes, old toys, old clothes. But also, metal shelves with strange tools. Chains. Tarps. A broken camcorder. And in the far corner, a locked trunk. I didn't have the key to that. But I took pictures. Of everything. And posted them on my blog, not mentioning my connection. I titled the post, "A Basement with Secrets. Could this be connected to Cassie Bell?" I didn't think it would explode. But it did. People went crazy trying to guess the location. One user triangulated shadows from the images. Another enhanced the metadata. And then, somehow, they traced the IP address. They found me. But not just internet trolls. The police did too. They showed up at our door 4 days later. My mom looked terrified. "What's this about?" she asked, trying to stay calm. The officer looked past her at me. "We have a warrant to search the property. We believe there may be a connection to the disappearance of Cassidy Bell." And that's when everything started falling apart. Everything I thought I knew about myself. About my mom. About our home. All of it was about to be shattered. The police moved fast. One moment, I was standing in the hallway staring at them, and the next, officers were walking through our house with gloved hands and cameras. My mom tried to keep her composure, but I could see it unraveling at the edges. Her eyes flicked to me like I was a stranger. And in that moment, I realized something that hit me like ice. She wasn't just scared. She was hiding something. "Riley," she said quietly, grabbing my arm as the officers headed down to the basement. "What did you do?" I stared at her. "What did you do, Mom?" Her grip tightened, just for a second, before she let go. She looked like she wanted to say more, but it was too late. The cops were already unlocking the basement door with the key I'd left in the lock. The moment it creaked open, I felt it again, that sick, heavy air pushing up the stairs. Like a warning. I stood frozen as they descended. My mom stood next to me, breathing shallowly, not asking questions, not even pretending to be confused. And that terrified me more than anything else. 20 minutes later, they came back up, and they didn't look calm. "Ma'am," one of them said to my mom, "we're going to need you to come with us." "Why?" she asked, barely above a whisper. "We found evidence of a potential crime scene. You have the right to remain silent." My mom looked at me. Her mouth opened, but she didn't say a word. Just stared. Like I was someone she didn't recognize. That was the last time I saw her before everything changed. The next few days were a blur. Our house was sealed off with crime scene tape. I was moved into temporary custody. Child Protective Services placed me with a distant relative I barely knew, my Aunt Marla. She lived 20 minutes away and wore floral perfume so strong it made my head spin. Her house smelled like candles and fake happiness. I hated every second of it. But worse than the awkward meals and stilted small talk was the silence. No one would tell me what they found. Not the police. Not the social worker. Not even my aunt, who only muttered, "Your mother always had her demons," and changed the subject. I felt like I was drowning in questions. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I logged into my blog. The site had exploded overnight. Thousands of views. Hundreds of comments. People trying to piece together the mystery. But what chilled me most were the messages. People asking, "Did you know?" Or "Is this your house?" Or "Who is your mom really?" And then I got another anonymous message. "Look into the fire report. July 2005. You were there. You just don't remember." My hands trembled. I searched those exact words. Fire report, July 2005. My town. And there it was. A small article from a local paper. Archived. Barely a paragraph. House fire destroys residents on Maplewood Lane. A home was severely damaged in a mysterious fire late Saturday night. A mother and her 2-year-old daughter survived, but the homeowner, identified as Thomas E. Conway, was declared missing and presumed dead. No body was recovered. My blood ran cold. Thomas Conway. My mother's maiden name was Conway. And that street? It was the one we used to live on before moving into our current home. The one with the locked basement. I stared at the article, my heart thudding in my ears. A man was presumed dead. In a fire. No body recovered. My mom and I were the only survivors. But I didn't remember any of it. I was 2 years old. Had she told me it was just an electrical fire all these years? Had she ever told me anything? I needed answers. So I messaged the local records office pretending to be a freelance journalist researching cold cases. I asked for any additional documents on the Maplewood Lane fire. It took 2 days, but they emailed me back. And the file was thick. Not just about the fire. There were domestic disturbance reports, police calls, a restraining order filed, then mysteriously dropped. The man, Thomas, had a history of aggression. Neighbors reported shouting matches, slamming doors, glass breaking. Some even claimed they heard screaming. But no charges were ever filed. And then, this was the part that broke me. One file included a handwritten note attached to a social services case. It read, "Mother claims father was becoming paranoid and violent. No witnesses. Child was present but too young to testify. Mother fled with daughter. Weeks later, house burns down. No remains of male found. Case closed." Was that my father? Had my mom killed him? Or was he still alive? I felt sick. Suddenly, everything clicked together in my brain like puzzle pieces falling into place, pieces I didn't even know I'd been collecting. The basement, the chains, the trunk, the silence, and the one memory I did have from childhood, one I always thought was a dream. A man's voice, shouting from somewhere below me, "Let me out!" And a woman's voice, my mom's voice, screaming back, "You brought this on yourself." I had buried that memory for years. But now, I knew it was real. 2 days later, the news finally broke. A press conference was held in front of the sheriff's office. I watched it on my aunt's old TV. The sheriff stepped up to the microphone, surrounded by reporters. "We can now confirm that during the investigation into the disappearance of Cassidy Bell, evidence was found in a private residence that links back to a decades-old missing persons case. Remains have been discovered, and early forensic analysis suggests they belong to Thomas E. Conway, a man who was declared missing in 2005 following a house fire. The body was located in a concealed compartment beneath the basement floor. I couldn't breathe. My mother had buried someone under our house. And not just anyone. My father. But that wasn't the whole story. Not even close. Because the next sentence the sheriff spoke changed everything. "We also found an item belonging to Cassidy Bell near the scene. A bracelet she was known to have worn the night of her disappearance. But DNA evidence confirms that Cassidy herself was never present at the burial site. The item appears to have been planted, which raises new questions about who may have been trying to expose or cover up the truth. Someone wanted the body found. Someone wanted the secret out. And whoever messaged me, they knew everything." The next few days felt like I was floating through someone else's nightmare. Everywhere I turned, school, news, even random people at the grocery store with my aunt, there were whispers. "That's the girl. Her mom's the one who. She lived above a dead body for years." I wanted to scream. I wanted to hide. But most of all, I wanted answers. Real ones. I couldn't stop thinking about that last part of the police announcement. The bracelet was planted. Cassidy's bracelet. Found in the basement. But Cassidy was never there. And no trace of her DNA. No signs she was hurt. Nothing. So, who put it there? And why? The anonymous messages. The blog. The perfect timing. It all felt intentional. And if I hadn't posted about the basement, would they have ever found my dad's body? Would anyone have ever known? That night, I couldn't sleep. I waited until Aunt Marla's light turned off, then snuck downstairs and opened my laptop. I didn't log into my blog. Not yet. I went deeper. Dark forums. Subreddits banned a dozen times over. Chat groups where digital ghosts shared cold cases and secret files. I posted one simple question in the deepest corner I knew. Who planted the bracelet in the basement? The responses flooded in. Most were garbage. Trolls. People trying to get attention. But one message stood out. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was specific. Precise. Controlled. You don't know what she's capable of. She lied to protect you. But she didn't do it alone. It came from a username I hadn't seen before. Truthwalker33. I messaged back. Who are you? No response. How do you know my mom? Still nothing. Until finally, after what felt like forever, I got one line. Because I lived in that basement too. I stared at the screen. My heart slammed so hard against my ribs I thought it might crack them open. Was this some kind of twisted joke? Or was there more to this than I ever imagined? I typed furiously. What do you mean you lived in the basement? I was there. After the fire. After your dad. She said it was just for a few nights. Said it was to keep me safe. But she never let me leave. I could barely breathe. My hands shook as I typed. Who are you? What's your name? A pause. Then, I don't remember my real name. But I remember you. You were just a kid. You used to talk to me through the vents. You thought I was imaginary. You called me Ghost Boy. And suddenly, I remembered. It hit me like a freight train. When I was around 6 or 7, I had an imaginary friend. At least, that's what everyone said. I'd talk into the floor vents in the living room. I'd whisper stories. Laugh. Ask questions. My mom thought it was cute, until one day, she told me to stop. She said it was time to grow up. That I was too old to play pretend. I never heard the voice again after that. Until now. Why did she let you go? I asked. She didn't. I escaped. Years later. I never told anyone who I was. I changed everything. But I've been watching you. Watching her. Waiting. For what? For you to find the truth. And now you're ready. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I skipped school. Told Aunt Marla I had a stomach bug. Then I packed a backpack with everything I had, laptop, notebook, water bottle, my phone, and walked out the front door like I had a destination. But I didn't. I just knew I had to find him. The boy from the basement. The ghost I used to talk to. Whoever he was, he had answers. Maybe even more than the police. He messaged me again mid-morning. Meet me. Public place. The old train station. I knew exactly where that was. It had been shut down for years, ever since the newer lines were built. But it was technically still public land. Half abandoned. Covered in graffiti and weeds. The kind of place no one pays attention to. I got there in 30 minutes. And he was already waiting. He looked about 19 or 20. Worn hoodie, backpack slung over one shoulder. He had dark hair and tired eyes. Eyes that had seen too much. Riley? He asked. I nodded. You look like her, he said. Your mom. But your eyes are different. They're not cold. My throat tightened. Who are you? He looked down. My name's Micah. At least, that's the name I chose when I got out. I stared at him. You're saying my mom locked you in our basement? For years? Micah nodded. Slowly. From when I was 9 until I was almost 14. I think I was supposed to be a foster kid. Or maybe a runaway. I don't know. She never explained. Just said it was temporary. Then she started locking the door. Then she stopped coming down at all. I had water, cans of food, a mattress, a vent that led to upstairs. That's how I heard you. How I talked to you. I was shaking. Why didn't you go to the police when you escaped? I tried, he said quietly. But no one believed me. I didn't have ID. I didn't even remember where the house was. She drugged me a lot in the early years. To keep me compliant, I think. My memories were all mixed up. And by the time I pieced it together, it was too late. No one would connect it to her. She was just a nurse. A single mom. Who would believe a kid like me over her? My mind was spinning. Why come back now? Because when I saw your blog, I knew you were different. You were looking for the truth. And I wanted to help you find it. I stared at him. But Cassidy? The bracelet? He nodded. I planted it. What? I gasped. Why? I was trying to force the cops to search the house. I didn't know about the body. I just wanted someone to finally uncover what she did to me. I thought if they found anything suspicious, it would finally bring it all out. And it worked. Better than I expected. So you didn't hurt Cassidy? I asked, heart pounding. No. God, no, I don't even know her. I bought a cheap bracelet from a pawn shop. One that looked like the one from her photos. I figured the public wouldn't know the difference. I had no idea. What else was buried down there? Silence hung between us. Then I asked the question that had been haunting me. Did she kill my dad? Micah looked at me, sadness flooding his eyes. I don't know. But if she didn't, she still buried him like he didn't matter. Like he was trash. And that was when I knew. This story wasn't just about Cassidy. Or Micah. Or even my dad. It was about the mask my mother had worn my entire life, and how easily it shattered once someone dared to look too closely. After meeting Micah, I felt like my world had cracked wide open, and the pieces didn't fit back together anymore. That night, I lay in my borrowed bed at Aunt Marla's house, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how the woman I called a mom could be the same person who buried a body beneath our house and imprisoned a child in our basement like some twisted secret. But the worst part? I still didn't have all the answers. Micah had planted the bracelet, but not because he wanted to hurt anyone. He just wanted someone to finally listen. And he'd chosen me because I was already digging. Because I'd been writing the truth even before I knew it was my truth too. The next morning, I made a decision. I was going to visit her. I needed to hear it from her mouth. I needed to see her face when I asked the questions. I called the detention center. Told them I wanted to speak to my mother. The guard on the phone hesitated, probably because of everything that had come out in the news. But after a few minutes, he transferred me to someone who gave me visiting hours. By noon, I was standing in front of a glass window, staring at a woman who suddenly didn't look like my mother anymore. She looked smaller. Not physically, but emotionally. Like the mask she'd worn my whole life had finally crumbled, and all that was left was a tired, angry woman who didn't know how to hide anymore. She picked up the phone on her side of the glass. I did the same. Riley, she said softly, like my name tasted like regret. I didn't respond. I just stared. She sighed. You're angry. I get that. No, I said coldly. You don't. Her eyes dropped for a moment, and then she whispered, I always knew this day would come. Why? I snapped. Why did you lock Micah in the basement? Why did you bury my father under our house? What did you do, Mom? She looked at me, really looked at me. Then she said something I never expected. I was trying to protect you. My heart dropped. From what? She swallowed hard, tears forming at the edges of her eyes. From him. From your father. She paused, then added, and from yourself. I shook my head. You have to explain. Now. No more lies. So she told me everything. She met my dad when she was just 19. He was charming, ambitious, a little older. For the first year, it was good. Great, even. She got pregnant with me. They bought a small house. Started building a life. But then he changed. He became controlling. Angry. He'd disappear for days and come home drunk or worse. The police were called more than once. She filed for a restraining order, but he threatened to take me away if she went through with it. I didn't have family. I didn't have money. I didn't have anyone, she whispered. But I had you. Then, one night, she caught him trying to sneak me out of my crib. He was drunk, furious, ranting that she was poisoning me against him. She fought him. Screamed. Said she'd called the police. Instead, he lit the fire. He poured gasoline in the garage and tried to burn the whole house down with us inside. She managed to get me out. But by the time the fire department arrived, the house was half gone. And my dad had vanished. They never found the body, she said. Everyone assumed he ran. Or maybe he died in the fire. But he didn't. I sat frozen. So what happened? She leaned forward. 2 nights after the fire, he came back. I gasped. I was staying with a friend across town. He showed up in the middle of the night, beaten and burned but alive. Said I ruined his life. Said he'd take you no matter what. I panicked. I hit him with a shovel. I didn't mean to kill him, Riley. I swear to God. But he wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop. She buried her face in her hands. I didn't know what else to do. I put him in the trunk of my car. Drove him to the new house I'd just signed the lease for. I hadn't even unpacked yet. I buried him in the basement because no one would ever look there. And then I sealed it all away. Started over. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And Micah? I asked. What about him? That's when her expression changed. Hardened. I was working in the ER. He came in one night. Covered in bruises. Said he'd run away from an abusive foster home. I saw myself in him. I thought maybe I could save him. Give him a better life. So I brought him home. But you didn't let him leave, I snapped. I couldn't. Not after a while. He started asking questions. Started digging. He almost found the basement. I got scared. I didn't know what to do. So I kept him there. It wasn't forever. I just needed time to figure things out. But time kept passing, and I kept failing. And eventually, I gave up. On him. On everything. You locked a child in a basement for years, I said, barely able to speak through the rage boiling in my throat. I know, she whispered. And I'll never forgive myself. But you have to believe me, Riley. I did it all for you. Every awful thing I did to give you a normal life. A safe life. Tears ran down my cheeks now. You built my life on lies. She nodded slowly. Yes, I did. I stared at her one last time before putting the phone down. Her face blurred through my tears as I stood up and walked out of the room. I didn't look back. That night, I posted one final story on Shadows of Suburbia. It was titled, The Woman in the Basement, a true story by the daughter who never knew. I told the whole truth. No more hiding. No more secrets. I included the court records, the fire reports, and most importantly, Micah's full testimony. I shared the story of the boy I thought was imaginary, the father I never got to know, and the mother who tried to save me by destroying everyone else. The blog went viral within hours. And suddenly, everyone knew what I knew. It's strange how quiet life becomes after a storm. After the story broke, after the world found out who my mother really was and what she had done, there was a kind of stillness that followed. Not peace, not yet, but a silence. Like the air had run out of words. The blog post went everywhere. People flooded my inbox, survivors of abuse, former foster kids, even journalists from national outlets. Everyone wanted to talk. Everyone had a theory. Some people praised me for being brave. Others accused me of profiting off trauma. I didn't answer most of them. Because while the world wanted a headline, I was still just trying to figure out who I was when the dust finally settled. My mom was formally charged with second-degree murder, unlawful imprisonment of a minor, and obstruction of justice. There were hearings, interviews, media frenzies. I didn't attend the first court date. I couldn't. I wasn't ready to sit in that room and look her in the eyes again. The prosecutors had enough evidence. My testimony and the evidence in the basement filled in every gap. But Micah did testify. He stood up there, steady, composed, and brave in a way I still don't understand. He told the world what had happened to him. How a woman who wore a nurse's badge and smiled at her neighbors had kept him locked in darkness for years. He didn't cry. He didn't rage. He just spoke. And when the judge asked if he had anything else to say, he said one thing. I just want her to know she didn't destroy me. I cried when I read the article. Because I knew exactly what he meant. I moved out of Aunt Marla's house shortly after the trial began. It wasn't that she was mean. She wasn't. But we both knew I didn't belong there. We barely knew each other, and the weight of my story was too much for her to carry. The state set me up with a transitional foster home for older teens finishing school. It wasn't glamorous, just a small house with 3 other girls and a counselor who made really awkward pancakes. But it was something I hadn't had in a long time. A chance to start over. I kept blogging, but shadows of suburbia changed. I no longer wrote from behind a mask. I wrote with my name attached. My story. My voice. And something amazing happened. Other people started writing too. It started with one girl who emailed me a story about her cousin who went missing years ago and was never found. Then a boy wrote in about a family member who had been in and out of the system his whole life. Slowly, the blog became more than just my place. It became a space for survivors, for people with questions, and for those who refused to let their stories die in the shadows. We called it the Basement Files. I still moderated it, still ran the back end. But it belonged to all of us now. Micah and I kept in touch, cautiously at first. He had gotten help after escaping. A kind couple had taken him in, given him a new name, and helped him start fresh. He never told them the whole story, but once my post went viral, he finally did. They stood by him. Now, he was applying for college. He wanted to study psychology. He said if he could understand why people did the things they did, maybe he could stop others from going down the same dark path. He even started volunteering at a youth shelter. We met again a few months after the trial. Not in secret this time. Just 2 people with shared trauma and a strange, unspoken bond that would probably never go away. You know what's weird? He said while we sat on a bench near the train tracks that used to be our hiding spot. What? I don't hate her. I blinked. My mom? He nodded. I mean, yeah, I'm angry. What she did was evil. But I spent so long carrying hate around, and it just weighed me down. I finally realized it didn't make me stronger. It made me stuck. I thought about that for a long time. I didn't know if I could forgive her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I didn't want to carry her with me anymore either. The house, the one I grew up in, was eventually sold. The new owners gutted the basement, removed everything, paved it over. I saw the listing online. It had new floors, new paint, and a picture of a cheerful kitchen that looked nothing like the place I remembered. But even though the house was gone, its ghost still whispered to me sometimes. In dreams. In old photos. In flashbacks to conversations that suddenly made more sense. There was one photo I found in a showbox the police had returned after the investigation was over. It was of me and my mom at the county fair. I was maybe 5 or 6. She was crouching beside me, smiling for the camera, her arm wrapped around my shoulders. But what got me wasn't the smile. It was her eyes. They looked like someone who was trying to be okay, trying to hold something in, trying to pretend everything was normal. And I suddenly understood something I hadn't before. My mom wasn't born a monster. She became one. Through pain. Through fear. Through choices she kept doubling down on until there was no way back. It didn't excuse anything, but it made the story even sadder. My graduation came quicker than I expected. The school offered me the chance to walk the stage, even gave me a little award for resilience, whatever that meant. As I crossed the stage, I saw Micah in the audience, sitting next to my counselor. He clapped for me like it actually meant something. And in that moment, for the first time in a long time, I felt proud. Not of the past, but of what I'd survived, of what I'd built out of the wreckage. Now, I'm heading off to college. I got accepted to a small liberal arts school upstate. I'm going to study journalism. Not because I want to be famous or write headlines, but because I believe in telling the stories no one else wants to. I believe in turning the lights on in the darkest rooms. And if I've learned anything from all of this, it's that silence is where the worst things grow. My story wasn't supposed to matter. I was supposed to stay quiet. I was supposed to be the girl who kept her head down and didn't ask questions. But I asked anyway. And because I did, the truth got out. The body in the basement was only part of it. The real story was about how secrets rot when they're buried. And how sometimes, the quietest girls are the ones who scream loudest when it matters.